So, that was it. The Giro d'Italia 2025 has come to an end. And with a shell-shocking twist on Colle del Finestre, the winner is Simon Yates. Over the last 2 years, it's become a tradition on this channel to do a tier list of the teams in the race after each Grand Tour, basically rating every single team that competed in this Giro from S tier, the best of the best, all the way down to DNS. They might as well have stayed home. Anyway, time to begin with Jaco Alula. Honestly, it's quite simple. Jaco Alula came to this race with multiple stage hunters, maybe 6 in total, and 2 of them delivered. Luke Plapp won stage 8 and Chris Harper won the Colle del Finestre stage on stage 20. That's an A-tier performance for me. Our next team is Intermarché 1T, and let's be honest, I almost forgot that they were in this race. Musato started off with a strong top 5 in stage 1, but outside of that, just a top 20 in GC with Mankeys. That is the definition of a DNS for me. They might as well have not started. Soudal Quickstep's Giro also did not go to plan, but that's because Landa crashed out on stage 1. In the sprinting department, Paul Manier did disappoint, but he's young and this was his first Grand Tour, so I'll see it through the fingers. That's a Flemish expression, so I don't know if that works in English. Anyway, I was quite impressed by Gianmarco Garofoli, who rode a strong Grand Tour. Soudal Quickstep is D tier for me. It's a shame we didn't see Mikel Landa in action. On to Picnic PostNL, who actually won a stage in this Grand Tour with Casper van Uden. But in terms of GC, it just didn't go that well. Bardet crashed pretty early, fell out of GC and had to fight for stage wins. And he was close a couple of times. But Max Poole, their other GC rider who was also aiming for a top 10, finished 11th. And hot take, that's not top 10. The light point is that they did manage to score more than 1,000 UCI points in this race, which is super important for this team. I'll go with B tier for Picnic PostNL. Next up is Bahrain Victorious. Antonio Tiberi was gunning for a podium, but the only thing he managed to hit was a cat. But after a strong tour of the Alps, Damiano Caruso came to the rescue with a top 5 in GC. Other light points were Eulalio and Zambanini, but Bilbao was a bit disappointing. Bahrain is B tier for me, all thanks to Caruso. Now our next team is a difficult one, the INEOS Grenadiers. Joshua Tarling won a time trial, his first Grand Tour stage, which I'm super happy to see, but it's also kind of expected of one of the best time trialists in the world. And in terms of GC, when you arrive at a Grand Tour with Egan Bernal and Tijmen Arensman, you're aiming for a top 5 in my opinion. Now I must say, INEOS has brought entertainment value to the first 2 weeks of this Grand Tour, blowing up mountain stages in the middle of them. But the reality is, some of those brave and entertaining tactics did backfire. Bernal finished 7th in GC, and Arensman crashed in the 3rd week, I'm pretty sure, and dropped out of top 10. Results-wise, INEOS Grenadiers deserve C tier, but my heart wants to put them higher. Derek G is a project for this team, and it's working. Yeah, it didn't start great with losing a minute on stage 1, but in the end he finishes 4th in GC, which, that's excellent for him. But outside of Derek G, I was expecting a little bit more from the stage hunters, like Marco Frigo. So it's a B tier performance by IPT in my book. Decathlon AG2R came here with a sprint train for Bennett, who disappointed. I'm pretty sure Dries de Bond won some random sprint classification that nobody actually cares about, but I'm happy for him. But my ceiling for this team was a stage victory, and they achieved that with Nicolas Prudhomme on Champoluc. So yeah, a B tier performance for Decathlon. Now, I'll be honest, there's some teams in this Grand Tour that don't deserve 5 seconds of this video, so time to do a quickfire round. Honestly, I barely remember seeing Cofidis at all, so they deserve to be in DNS. They might as well have not started. When it comes to Arkea, Alessandro Vere comes to mind with a strong performance on Colle delle Finestre, but the team, Arkea, still deserves DNS. Now I promise it has nothing to do with the nationality of these teams, but Groupama FDG. David Gurus' crash didn't help them, but outside of Rémi Rochat, I don't remember seeing them much. DNS, because if you look at the results, you will think they never started this race. Okay, it's time for Q36.5, let's talk about Tom Pidcock. Let's be honest, Pidcock rode a near anonymous Giro d'Italia. In the first 2 weeks he stayed too close in GC to be able to get into the breakaway, and in week 3 he simply wasn't strong enough. Easily one of the most disappointing performances of this entire Giro. Next to Pidcock, Moschetti scored 1 podium and a sprint deviation. D tier for Q36.5, simply not good enough. Movistar was never truly in the running for a stage victory, which is disappointing, but I was quite impressed by Arno Rubio, who finished in the top 10 of GC, 8th. Movistar is C tier for me. Anyway, we're basically halfway, and this is what our board looks like. But before we continue, today's video is brought to you by Sirocco, my go-to place for qualitative and affordable cycling clothing. If you watch my real life and Zwift cycling videos, you know I'm super happy with Sirocco. I use it in literally every single one of my rides, whether it's on the cobbles of Paris-Roubaix or indoor on my trainer. Anyway, with the link below or code BENJINAS, and you can get 10% off any Sirocco product, so go check them out. Okay, it's time to talk about a big team, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Before the race started, Primoz Roglic was the favorite for this Grand Tour. He crashed multiple times and abandoned. But after Primoz left the race, the team fought back and got a stage win and a top 10 in GC. Super impressive by Pellizzari and Denz. C-tier performance by Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. It's time for another quickfire round. Polti visit Malta, Picanzoli with a top 15 in GC, and Maestri with a stage podium. That's C-tier for me. The only thing I remember from Bardiani is Marcio Luci getting a top 10 maybe on Colle del Finestre, so not exactly memorable. D-tier for Bardiani this year. Now Tudor Pro Cycling was invited to this Giro because they signed Hirschi and Alaphilippe, but they brought neither of them. That being said, Stork was pretty strong, but the team still deserves D-tier to me. Anyway, it's time to talk about one of the best teams in this Grand Tour, Lidl-Trek. Mes Pedersen won 4 stages, won the Ciclamino jersey, and wore the Maglia Rosa for 5 days. But that's not everything. Dan Hole impressively won one of the time trials, and Carlos Verona won a breakaway stage. That is 6 stages in total. That's crazy good. Yes, Ciccone crashed out, but still an easy S tier for Lidl-Trek. Outstanding performance. Our next team, XDS Astana, came here with 3 goals, UCI points, stage wins, and the KOM jersey. And they're going home with all 3 of them. The Maglia Azzurra was won by Fortunato, ahead of his teammate Scaroni. Stage 16 was won by Scaroni, ahead of his teammate Fortunato. And they scored a shit ton of UCI points, so A tier for XDS Astana, easily. Incredible performance. Next up is Alpecin de Koning. Caden Groves did win a sprint stage, but it was the neutralized Napoli stage, so not the most prestigious one. And let's be honest, Alpecin came here with no GC rider, and their breakaway hunters simply did not perform. Although I was impressed by Edward Plancard on the Strade Bianche stage. C tier for Alpecin de Koning. Okay, 3 teams left, and this is what our board looks like. Starting off with EF Education first. Did Richard Carapaz ride a perfect Colle del Finestre? No, but he still rode a fantastic Giro d'Italia. El Jaguar de Tulcan scored his first Grand Tour podium since 2022. I consider that a success, especially because EF also took home 2 stage victories, with Carapaz and Asgreen. So an A-tier performance for Carapaz and EF. Okay, I know you're expecting me to say a lot about the next team, UAE Team Emirates. I want to start off by talking about Juan Ayuso. He came to this Grand Tour, the Giro d'Italia, in an attempt to win his first Grand Tour. Juan took his first Grand Tour stage victory on Tagliacozzo, but he crashed on the Siena stage, and after that, not much came out anymore. I am still a believer of Juan Ayuso. Let's not forget he podiumed a Grand Tour, and I believe he's gonna win a Grand Tour in his career. Just not this one. I also think the criticism towards Isaac Del Toro in the 24 hours after Colle del Finestre was completely overblown. And I'm not saying Del Toro rode the perfect Colle del Finestre, but we're talking about a 21-year-old Mexican kid that if he gets second at this Giro d'Italia, that is the best result of a Mexican rider at a Grand Tour of all time. Okay, I've spoken about Isaac Del Toro and Juan Ayuso, but my biggest problem is with the UAE Team Emirates team car. A lot of people will point towards the Monte Grappa stage where UAE was literally bringing Simon Yates back to Isaac Del Toro, but honestly, I think that's a bit of a hindsight argument. I've got bigger issues with their pre-race plan of stage 20, for example, the Colle del Finestre stage. If you look at the parkour, there's a valley after the top of Colle del Finestre. You know that your competitors, Visma-Lease bike and EF Education first, are going to send satellite riders up the road, so their GC rider has a domestique after the top of Finestre if they can drop Del Toro on that climb. There's 2 things that UAE could have done to prevent or counter that. Option 1 is sending your own defensive satellite rider into the breakaway together with Wout van Aert so that after the top, Yates has Van Aert, but you've got Arrieta for Del Toro. The other option is if you miss the breakaway, you're not in it, but Wout van Aert is, make sure that breakaway does not have 10 minutes at the foot of Finestre, because if it's 7 minutes or 6 minutes, then Wout van Aert never gets over the top in front of Simon Yates, making Wout van Aert useless. Anyway, that is one thing, but I also want to talk about Brandon McNulty. In this Grand Tour, he rode for Del Toro and Ayuso twice in total. Throughout the rest of the race, he was trying to obtain his own top 10 result in this race because UAE has given him that free roll in this Grand Tour. And I'm sorry, but giving a free roll to riders like McNulty in a Grand Tour like this, it's an attempt to keep the leaders happy, but at the end of the day, it's negatively impacting the chances of Del Toro of winning this Grand Tour. So McNulty might be happy about it, but Del Toro shouldn't be. Anyway, in the end, Del Toro and Ayuso both get a stage victory, and Del Toro finishes on the podium, which is fantastic for him, but a disappointing result for the team. A C-tier performance for UAE Team Emirates, in my opinion. Okay, it's time to talk about our final team, Visma-Lease bike. Or should we call them Visma-Lease Maglia Rosa? That's a stupid joke, cut that out. They won the Strade Bianche stage with Wout van Aert, which that opened up so much confidence for him, and I was super happy to see that. And next to that, I was expecting multiple Grand Tour stage victories for Olaf Koy, and he delivered 2 stage wins. But the most captivating, entertaining, shell-shocking day of this entire Grand Tour was the Colle del Finestre stage on day 20. Wout van Aert goes in the breakaway as a satellite rider, gets 10 minutes by the foot of Colle del Finestre, makes it over the top in front of Simon Yates, one of the best climbing performances of Wout van Aert's entire career. But most importantly, Simon Yates, in the exact same stage where he lost the Giro and 38 minutes in 2018 on Colle del Finestre, he takes revenge and wins the Maglia Rosa and wins his second Grand Tour, wins the 2025 Giro d'Italia. What an amazing story. Absolute cinema. I'll be honest, I am completely indifferent about Simon Yates as a rider, but I was quite emotional after the finish. At the end of the day, there's only a limited amount of stages in my history as a cycling fan where I can remember myself sitting and staring at a wall for 30 minutes after the stage thinking, what did I just watch? Just like Paris-Roubaix 2016, the Planche de Belleville stage at the Tour de France, the Vincenzo Nibali Tour de France 2014 cobble stage, this stage will be a stage that will stay in my mind for a very long time. So incredibly memorable. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot this is a tier list video. I'm supposed to rate Visma-Lease bike. S tier, they won 3 stages, and the Maglia Rosa. That's above expectations. Anyway, this is our final board. This is my opinion on every team in this Giro d'Italia. But I want to hear your opinion in the comment section below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed the Giro d'Italia as much as I did, and I can't wait to do this again for the Tour de France. See you in July.